Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Monday, April 4th, 2022, and welcome back in to the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb, and coming up on today's episode, the Orioles have made a trade, and a pretty big one at that we are going to break down everything you need to know about the deal here on this episode. As the O's have traded two of their best relievers away to the Miami Marlins, Tanner Scott and Cole Sulser are headed their way to Miami for two minor leaguers, another player to be named later, and a draft pick coming back from the Marlins to the Orioles. So on this episode, we'll break down what it means for the O's that Scott and Sulser are gone. Was it a good deal to get rid of two of your best relievers? And what the return is for the Orioles? I'll tell you more about these younger players that are joining the number one ranked system in baseball. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So a big trade to talk about from the Orioles. This episode today was originally going to be 2.0 of our opening day roster prediction. I was going to take another crack at which 28 players would make the Orioles opening day roster, but that went out the window for two reasons. One, there was a trade to talk about, and two of the players traded, the two players traded, were both obviously locks to make that roster in the bullpen in Cole Sulser and Tanner Scott. So we'll talk about how that roster will change as well. But first, just wanted to thank you for making Locked On Orioles your first podcast listen of the day. Locked On Orioles is free and available on all podcast listening platforms. And remember, we're the only O's pod out there bringing you content 5 days a week. Guess what? Opening day is this week. We're just 4 days away from the O's at the Trop on Friday to open the 2022 season. And we will have all the coverage for you here on this podcast. So if you like the pod, make sure to follow, subscribe to the pod wherever you listen. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, if you could give a 5-star rating and a review to the podcast, that really helps out a lot. Spotify allows ratings. A 5-star rating would be fantastic. And of course, if you're watching here on YouTube, welcome. Make sure you hit that red subscribe button right down there below the video. Like the video. If you liked what you saw, leave a comment. Get in on the conversation. Let me know. Did you like this trade between the Orioles and the Marlins? Did you not like it? Let me know why in the comments on this video. But again, just wanted to thank you guys so much for making it Locked On Orioles your first listen of the day. And first listen of the day brought to you by betonline.net. For all your sports wagering needs, head over to betonline.net where the game starts. So the Orioles have traded Cole Sulser and Tanner Scott to the Miami Marlins. Now, it was first reported by Mark Feinsand that Tanner Scott was going to the Marlins. And to be honest, when I first saw that, I said, you know what? I thought Tanner Scott could maybe channel what he did in 2020. Remember, he had the 1.31 ERA in the shortened season, but he had an ERA over 5 last year. Now he does have, 3 more years of control, including this year. So I thought the O's still had a chance with Tanner Scott. But I said, if a team ever came looking for Tanner Scott, I wouldn't have been too upset if the Orioles traded him because, relievers are volatile as it is, and they have up and down seasons, but Tanner Scott is super extra volatile. So I would have been okay with that. But then in comes Craig Mish, who says, wait, Cole Sulser is also part of the deal. And he almost threw it in there like the Orioles are also throwing in Cole Sulser. No. It's the Orioles' best reliever in 2022. Cole Sulser is the headliner of the deal. He's got 4 years of control, not just 3 like Tanner Scott. He's cheaper this year because Tanner Scott is in his first year of arbitration. Sulser is not. And he's better than Tanner Scott. That's the headliner of the deal. And that's the part that made me go from, you know what? We're getting a mid-level prospect for Tanner Scott. Don't love it. Don't hate it. To, I don't like that the Orioles are trading Cole Sulser. And I waited for the return because I said, all right, the O's are trading, you could argue 2 of their best 3 relievers, at worst 2 of their best 4, and 2 legitimate major league arms to a team in Miami that's trying to get back to competition and really did need some bullpen help. Of course, the Orioles have already traded the Marlins' Richard Blyer a couple of years ago. Zach Pop is in their bullpen. Now they'll be joined by a couple more former Orioles. And I said, okay, Miami has a lot of starting pitching depth in the system. Maybe if it's, Tanner Scott, Cole Sulser for one of those kind of tweener starters who doesn't really fit in but's ready for the big leagues, I thought, okay, Eliezer Hernandez, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's an overpay by the Marlins. But I thought if that's the deal, I'm for it. And then we saw what the return was. 4 pieces coming back to the Orioles in the trade. 2 players that we know of. The first is Antonio Velez. He is a 25-year-old left-handed pitcher who MLB.com does not rank, but Baseball America has him 34th in the Marlins system. Prospects 1500 has him 25th in the Marlins system. Has played 1 full minor league season. That was 2021. Great numbers after the left-hander was an undrafted free agent in 2020. But remember, that was only a 5-round draft. So there are a lot of good undrafted free agents. The other player is Kevin Guerrero. He is a 17-year-old center fielder who played all of last season in the Dominican Summer League after he signed with the Marlins for a $600,000 signing bonus in the international class back in 2021. There's also a player to be named later in the deal. And then something you don't see often, and you're going to start seeing more because the new CBA, a draft pick trade came here as well. It is the competitive balance round B pick from the Marlins, who the draft order was revealed a couple of weeks ago. The Marlins had the number 1 competitive balance round B pick, which means those B rounds come after the second round. So competitive balance round A comes right after the first round. The B round comes right after the second round. So I looked at it quickly and thought the Orioles would be getting pick number 69 in the draft. Now, Jim Callis says it'll actually be pick number 67 in the draft, which obviously a little better, 2 picks up. So the O's will get another pick. They already have a first rounder. They have a competitive balance A pick, and they have a second rounder. So they have 4 picks right now in the top 70. Not too bad, obviously, for a draft team with Mike Elias that has done pretty well so far for the Orioles. But that's the deal right there. The 2 major league relievers for, potentially, eventually, it'll be 4 players when we learn the player to be named later in the deal, which we could know by tomorrow. We could not know for another 4 months. You just kind of never know with the players to be named later, but that is the deal. My first reaction, not a fan of the trade. I was waiting for maybe a better return from the Marlins. That's not what they got. And listen, these 2 players they get back, the 4 players they get could be good and could end up being better than Scott and Sulser, who are just kind of solid relievers. But at the end of the day, because it's not like a top 10 or 15 prospect from anybody's system, it's more, breakout prospect candidates in Velez and Guerrero. You have to look more so at how it impacts the Orioles now. And I get it that the Orioles are not going to win a lot of baseball games in 2022. And we know that, the target year to start winning, hopefully, is 2023 and beyond. But it's not like Tanner Scott and Cole Sulser are free agents soon. That's where it would be different. If Scott and Sulser both had 1 year left on their deals, I would say, you know what? Good job, Mike Elias. But Tanner Scott could have been an Oriole through 2024 without an extension. Cole Sulser could have been an Oriole through 2025 without an extension. Tanner Scott was in his first year of arbitration. He was going to get paid $1.05 million this year. That's another thing to remember. The Orioles have cut $1 million in payroll with this deal. Now, again, you're not really shedding payroll when you trade a guy who's worth $1 million, and that's about it. But it's $1 million less than they're going to have to pay somebody. Cole Sulser doesn't even hit arbitration until next offseason. So he's still basically making kind of the minimum for a guy who was your best reliever end-to-end for the Orioles bullpen in 2021. So they still could be trade candidates. Cole Sulser is 32. Maybe by 2025, he's 35 years old, and he's just not effective anymore. And I get that he, didn't get to the bigs till he was 29. I understand all of that. Tanner Scott's been super inconsistent. I get it. But you look at an Orioles bullpen, which doesn't have a lot of legitimate major league reliable options. We've seen this over the last 3 years. There are some people who want to rag on Brandon Hyde for his bullpen decisions and say that's why he's a bad manager. How can you evaluate Brandon Hyde's decisions as a manager? He has no relievers to work with. I mean, you can't say that Brandon Hyde, this and that, Brandon Hyde, doesn't put the right guy in. Who's he supposed to put in the last couple of years? Now you take away 2 of his go-to guys. You take away literally his best reliever in Sulser, and I get Scott was bad at times last year, and he's been bad at times in his career, but in 2020, Tanner Scott was a go-to guy. At times in 2021, Tanner Scott was a go-to guy. And even when he's pitching kind of poorly, you still trust him more than any rookie. So you looked at Brandon Hyde's bullpen, and if the Orioles don't make any additions there, which I don't assume they will, we're 4 days out from opening day, Scott and Sulser get replaced by kind of fringe roster guys. Some of them will be, top prospects who will start in the bullpen. Maybe a Mike Baumann type gets a role now, and I'm happy about that. And maybe he turns into a great reliever or a great starter. And, maybe this opens the door more for Felix Bautista, and I'm happy about that too. Got added to the 40-man, has great stuff. But you don't want to have to force those guys into roles. And here's the other thing. Maybe Baumann and Bautista in 2 years will be locked down, legit relievers, better than Sulser and Scott. I could see that happening. But that's not going to be the case in 2022. And when Brandon Hyde looks down there, he's going to go to all these rookies. It's just going to make the major league product worse. And again, if these prospects work out, it could end up being a good trade. But right now for the Orioles, if you're watching the big league games, this makes it worse for you. I mean, you never know what's going to happen at the end of these games. I mean, the Orioles have essentially 2 high leverage guys left in Paul Frye and Dylan Tate. Dylan Tate, who's been kind of inconsistent. Paul Frye, who fell off a cliff last year. That's your best 2 relievers. That's a scary proposition to go into the season with. But we'll talk more about, what the bullpen looks like now for the Orioles and what they're really losing in Tanner Scott and Cole Sulser in just a minute. But first, this trade had me a little exhausted, to be honest, because I was kind of worked up about it for a little bit. So to get that energy back, turn to a Built Bar, because Built Bars are the delicious protein bars. They're good for you and they taste great. So I feel like I'm eating a candy bar. That's great, but it gives me energy, gives me 17 grams of protein, and it's only 130 calories. Don't have to feel bad about eating it at all. And all these great flavors, these bars, mint brownie, coconut almond, new flavor, white chocolate cookies and cream, my favorite peanut butter brownie. You could always turn to a Built Bar. It's the perfect snack to have that's good for you and tastes delicious. So to get your hands on some of these Built Bars, go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Because at Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it delicious first, then they figure out how to make it healthy, and they pull it off every time. So again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So the Orioles have made a trade. Cole Sulser and Tanner Scott to the Miami Marlins. And good for the Marlins, They're getting a bullpen better. Really, they just need a center fielder, and they look like a legitimate team going into 2022 in an NL East that's probably still kind of open for the taking, especially now that Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer aren't even going to be ready for opening day for the Mets, who looked like the favorite in that division. And, the Braves are pretty good. They did just win the World Series. Don't want to slight them. And yeah, the Phillies added to their roster, but the Nats are real bad. And the Marlins could have made some noise there. So they get Scott and Sulser. And, this is kind of, what did the Orioles lose? What are the Marlins gaining? Well, in Tanner Scott, obviously, 2021 for him, that was kind of why my reaction at first when it was Scott was, this isn't the worst thing in the world to happen. 2021, he pitched 54 innings for the Orioles, had missed a little time at the end of the year with injury, ended up with a 5.17 ERA. Again, not what you want else. 70 strikeouts in 54 innings, pretty good. 37 walks in 54 innings, very concerning. Allowed 6 homers, had a 1.57 whip. The stats were not good for Tanner Scott. Now, he did have the 1.31 ERA in about 21 innings in the shortened 2020 season. He was dominant, don't get me wrong. And the stuff still looks good when it's on. The fastball, 97, 99, good sweeping slider. But here's the thing about Tanner Scott that we saw for so much of 2021. He had no fastball command. I mean, that slider was really good. That was a almost elite pitch for Tanner Scott. But there were a lot of outings in 2021 where he was literally only throwing sliders. He'd have innings where he'd throw 18 pitches, 16 of them would be sliders because he literally couldn't locate the fastball. He'd just throw it a couple times just to show the hitter that he at least was thinking about throwing it. But guys could sit on his slider. The only reason he got guys out is because the slider was still so good. And sometimes even if somebody was sitting slider, they couldn't hit it. But a lot of good hitters knew they could just sit slider because if he threw a 98-mile-per-hour fastball, it was going to miss the zone by 4 feet. And they could sit on that slider, and even though it was a good pitch, good hitters could sit on it. And that's why he had a 5.17 ERA, simple as that. Or he would just walk guys when he would try and throw more fastballs. So at the end of the day, if that's the Tanner Scott we get continuing to move forward, not a big loss, obviously, for the Orioles bullpen. If we see more of the Tanner Scott we saw in the shortened 2020, a guy who could command the fastball with the wipeout slider, he's only 27 years old. He can still be a really, really good reliever if he figures that out. And the Marlins have done a solid job of developing pitching lately. they could figure that out. We'll see. Obviously he came up late in 2017, so he's had a lot of chances with the Orioles. Thrown 156 innings in his Orioles career since coming up late in 17. 4.73 ERA, 12 Ks per nine, a great number. 5.5 walks per nine, a terrible number. That's been the Tanner Scott story. And, I liked Tanner Scott in general. It was frustrating to watch him pitch sometimes, but also enjoyed when he was on. It was really, really fun to watch when he was on. Like, there was maybe nobody more fun to watch out of the Orioles bullpen when they were really on than Tanner Scott. So I will miss that. And I wish him the best in Miami. But the bigger loss for the Orioles is Cole Sulser because of just how good Sulser was in 2021. And I get that he's 32 years old and he didn't get to the bigs till he was 29 at the end of the year with the Rays in 2019, and that he wasn't that good in the shortened season in 2020. I get all that. And you could say, hey, it was a 31-year-old reliever who found it for a year and now he's going to be bad again. That happens to guys. It does. But I think Cole Sulser has something. Of course, Sulser's stats last year, 2021 season, that was fantastic. Best Orioles reliever. I keep saying it. 61 in the third innings, 2.70 ERA, 73 Ks, 23 walks, 8 saves for the Orioles. He was great. And here's the thing, I get that relievers, again, can be volatile. 4 more years of control, including this year. He wouldn't have been a free agent until after 2025. The Orioles this wasn't even like a mini salary shedding move. Like the Tanner Scott one, you could consider it because he was due to make $1.05 million after they came to that agreement in arbitration. Sulser's not even arbitration eligible yet. So you're getting a mega cheap elite reliever at times. Maybe his whole package isn't an elite reliever, but he's got an elite pitch. Let me tell you, he's got a good high spin fastball. He's working on that breaking ball, but that changeup is an elite changeup. We've talked about that on this podcast before. It is a top 10 changeup in baseball from a right-hander. I mean, that thing is legit. It's a swing and miss pitch. It gets ground balls. It has elite, missing contact rate, misses bats. It's an incredible pitch, and the Marlins are lucky to have that in the bullpen. And I get, maybe Cole Sulser looks more like he did in 2020 down the stretch. Remember, he had that broken toe that he pitched with, kind of caused the struggles in 2020 when he had the 5.56 ERA in about 23 innings after he started the season as the Orioles closer in the shortened year. Maybe he doesn't get any better than this. Maybe he's worse than this the rest of his career. But he's only 32 and he's got an elite pitch and he's not even arbitration eligible. Why are you trading that guy? And, maybe you could say, his value will never be higher. He's coming off an incredible season. He's getting paid nothing. Value will never be higher. I can agree that Cole Sulser's value right now may never be higher. But this move, and here's the other thing, teams are sometimes a little more desperate for relievers at the trade deadline when they realize halfway through the season that, hey, we have a good roster, but our bullpen stinks. I think you could have got more for just Cole Sulser at the deadline. You remember the Michael Givens trade? The Orioles got Tyler Nevin, Taron Vavra, and Michel Deschamps from Michael Givens. You're telling me you couldn't get more for Cole Sulser, who's had better numbers at the time of the potential, trade at this year's deadline than Givens had at the 2020 deadline? Maybe you don't fleece as many teams because the Rockies don't operate like a smart team at times that the O's made that Givens trade with. But I just, the Tanner Scott part doesn't bother me. It feels like they could have gotten more and should have for Cole Sulser. But at the end of the day, they should have traded Cole Sulser. He's the perfect guy to have on a rebuilding team. A reliever who's not even ARB eligible, who's kind of a veteran, been around, 32 years old, coming off a great season with an elite pitch. Perfect guy to have in the bullpen. You don't need to trade him. And yet they did. And here we are. So the question is, who steps up now in the O's bullpen? And first of all, this opens 2 opening day roster spots in the pen because these 2 guys, Sulser and Scott, were obviously locks for the opening day roster. So I was actually prepared to do another, opening day roster prediction episode today. So it was interesting to kind of look at what I had prepared as the 28 players and then subtract Scott and subtract Sulser and see who are my next 2 pitchers to get on that list. I'll give you 4 names who maybe aren't happy. Maybe they're friends with these guys that they're traded, but their positioning for the opening day roster just got a whole lot easier. Mike Baumann, Dean Kramer, Felix Bautista, and Joey Crable each got a boost from this move. Baumann threw 2 1/3 scoreless in the Sunday spring training game. Kramer got hit around a bit in the game, but if there's another pitching spot open, maybe he comes in as kind of a bulk reliever. Felix Bautista, hasn't pitched a whole lot, but he's pitched well. But I did think they maybe would just kind of start him at AAA to get him some more AAA seasoning. Now there's a spot open up there for Bautista. I think this move means Brian Baker and Cionel Perez are both locks for the bullpen. Both guys who were claimed off waivers this offseason have pitched really well for the Orioles in spring training. I think they're both locks. And Joey Crable, who was on the 40-man, I felt like he was kind of fading a little bit. He's back in the conversation now to make the opening day bullpen. And I do think, from what I had predicted, I actually had Baumann already predicted onto the roster, but I had Kramer, Bautista, and Crable off. I think this might move Dean Kramer and Felix Bautista onto the opening day roster. That would be my prediction, with Crable as that odd man out, the 29th guy right now. So at least for them, that's kind of how the bullpen looks. But now when you slot out this entire Orioles bullpen, as I mentioned before, you have two guys who have really ever pitched in high leverage spots in the majors: Paul Frye and Dylan Tate. Each of them has spent time as the Orioles closer over the past couple of seasons. Each of them have had great stretches. Dylan Tate, now we talked about him on an episode a couple weeks ago with a couple of guys, Bill Hiesel and Anthony Brady from Driveline. Make sure to go check that one out. Great episode talking about Dylan Tate's work at Driveline this offseason and how he's gotten so much better. I believe in Dylan Tate. I think he's going to be a really good reliever this year. But Paul Frye, he was great the first half last year. Do you remember what Paul Frye did in the second half last year? He couldn't get anybody out, couldn't throw a strike, and spent most of the last month in AAA not even pitching down there. So, maybe there were some questions about Paul Frye. Now with this move, Frye is clearly going to be on the opening day roster again, and he's pitched pretty well. He looks closer to the old Paul Frye in spring training so far. But those are the two guys Brandon Hyde has to trust. I mean, if you look in that bullpen, the number 3 option for Brandon Hyde behind Paul Frye and Dylan Tate is probably Jorge Lopez. And I get that he looked pretty good as a reliever at the end of last year, but he hasn't done it much. He struggled as a starter, and he might still not even be a reliever. I mean, you got to remember, we learned last week that Tyler Wells is going to be in the starting rotation. So as good as he was in the bullpen as a high leverage guy, he's out of that conversation because he's in the rotation. And maybe that helps more than it hurts, because Wells will pitch more innings. And if he's one of your better pitchers, pitch him more innings. So that helps. But the end of the game options are few and far between for the Orioles right now. It's going to be a lot of starters pitching multiple innings out of the pen, Jorge Lopez, and then Frye and Tate at the end, with Brian Baker and Cionel Perez needing to pick up some of the slack. It's not looking good in the Orioles bullpen. And for a bullpen that, especially in 2020 and at times in 2021, was kind of the pleasant surprise for these really bad Orioles teams, unless some young guys step up, which they certainly could. And obviously this opens doors for even other guys like Nick Vespi, with another spot for a lefty maybe available. Logan Gillespie, we could see him up sooner. I get it. But this could be, at least early in the season especially, the worst Orioles bullpen we've seen since 2019, which was maybe the worst bullpen I've ever seen. So that's how things look at the major league level after this trade. A little bleak at the end of the pen. But the O's did get a return. And so coming up next, we'll break down that return a little further. What the Orioles actually got for Sulser and Scott in this trade, and how they could manage to turn this into a positive in this deal that was turned on Sunday evening. But because of this bullpen and how it's looking, I would tend to bet that the Orioles win total props might actually go down a little bit after this move. That's how important a guy like Cole Sulser might have been. But for the O's, if you want to maybe try and throw some money on the under win total now, head to betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your betting needs and your sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championship odds, podcasts, and reviews for all the different leagues this season. Of course, the men's basketball national championship game is tonight between Carolina. Yes, they beat Duke. Let's go. Of course, they're taking on Kansas. Get the odds for that one as well. And BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action at betonline.net, where the game starts. So the Orioles trade Cole Sulser, they trade Tanner Scott, but let's look at who they got back. And let's start with the two players that I mentioned earlier, the two players we know that are coming back to the Orioles. Kind of the headliner in the deal, at least for now, although we've seen Mike Elias, the Dominican Summer League guys he gets, sometimes become the headliners. Michel Deson, Gene Pinto, two of those guys already. Antonio Velez right now is the headliner in the deal. He is a 25-year-old left-handed pitcher coming over from the Marlins system who finished the year in Double-A with Miami in 2021. Velez not ranked in the MLB.com top 30 Marlins prospects, but Baseball America had him 34th, and Prospects 1500 had him 25th. Fangraphs has not yet done its Marlins list. That would be my go-to list, but they haven't put that one out just yet. But Velez, 6'1" left-hander, 25 years old, who was an undrafted free agent after the 2020 draft. Now, you hear undrafted free agent, you say, oh, he must not have been a prospect at all. Remember, 2020, because of the COVID year, was only a 5-round draft. A lot of teams got a lot of good players as undrafted free agents. Theoretically, a player that would have been a usual 6th rounder was an undrafted free agent in 2020. So, yeah, they're not real undrafted free agents, but that's where the Marlins got him from. Picked him out of Florida State, where he pitched 2 years for the Seminoles after he had pitched 2 years at a community college at the JUCO ranks. But he was an older guy. He was 23 years old when he got signed after the draft. So definitely an older player. But at Florida State in 2020, in that shortened season before he was signed by the Marlins, he was nails. 17 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 1 run, 21 Ks, and 3 walks. That is the big thing about Antonio Velez. A command magician on the mound. He does not walk anybody. His 2021 stats in total, spent most of the year at high A and then came up to double A right at the end of the year. 99 innings, mostly as a starter. It was 23 appearances. It was 14 starts. So he was mostly a starter, but he pitched as kind of a bulk reliever at times as well. 99 innings. He had a 2.55 ERA between the two levels. 93 strikeouts to just 11 walks in 99 innings. So it's not elite strikeout stuff. It's good strikeout stuff at 93 Ks in 99, but 11 walks in 99 innings. A 3% walk rate that led all Marlins minor league pitchers. That was one of the best rates across all of minor league baseball. He throws strikes. He does not issue a free pass. Kind of the anti-Tanner Scott is who he was traded for. But a 2.55 ERA, pretty good too. Now, he spent most of the year at high A, and then with those great stats, he earned a promotion to double A at the end of what, remember, was his first minor league season because he was signed in 2020, no minor league season there. So he started his minor league career at high A because he was, older, 25 years old. So he goes to double A, makes 3 starts, and he was pretty much just as good. He ended up pitching 18 innings, allowed 12 hits, just 1 run in 18 innings at double A. Get this, 18 strikeouts to 2 walks at the double A level in 18 innings. That's, again, it's only 3 starts at the end of the year at double A, but that's elite stuff. So I think the plan was to probably start him again at double A this year in Miami, and that's probably where he'll start with the Orioles. I would assume he takes a rotation spot with the Bowie Bay Sox on minor league opening day coming up this Friday. That would be my assumption. If he's not in the rotation, he'll probably be kind of a piggyback starter where, one guy goes 5, Velez comes in and goes 3 or 4. But he's going to be in Bowie. And because he's 25 and because he already has double A experience and success, very good chance he gets to AAA Norfolk this year. And then you never know. Listen, he's 25 years old. He's the age of a lot of Orioles players in the big leagues right now. So if he pitches well enough this year, Antonio Velez getting to the big leagues in 2022 by the end of the year is not off the table. I would project him, if he's going to be a big leaguer, to be there in 2023. But again, not off the table this year. So at least he's, a little more of an advanced prospect. He probably won't slot in as a top 30 Orioles prospect. Maybe more in the 31 to 40 range is probably where he'll slot in. But again, fastball in the low 90s, where the velocity has actually ticked up since Florida State. Talked to a couple people who said, he was not kind of that low 90s guy. He was more like trying to get to 90. Now he's in the low 90s consistency. He's got a changeup and a slider, but that changeup is his best pitch. And Baseball America said he had the best changeup in the Marlins system. So you're looking at a fastball changeup lefty. John Means is a fastball changeup lefty. Kind of think a little bit that's the style that he pitches. And in terms of, where he's going to be in the system if he doesn't get to the big leagues quickly, he's not Rule 5 eligible until after the 2023 season. So even if he did stay in the minors for the next 2 years, the Orioles wouldn't have to add him to the 40-man roster until after 2023. But I would assume if he's going to be a solid piece for the Orioles, he'll be in the bigs at some point, either this season or next. Second player they picked up, Kevin Guerrero. Again, a 17-year-old center fielder who, again, was not ranked by MLB.com, but Baseball America ranked him the number 29 ranked prospect in the Marlins system. He was signed by the Marlins January of 2021 when the international signing period opened up last year. He got a $600,000 signing bonus from Miami as they signed him out of his native Dominican Republic. Now, he is 17, but he's almost 18. Less than 2 weeks away. April 17th, he will turn 18 years old. 6'3", 165 pounds. Again, one of those guys who's tall and they say a projectable body where he'll put on weight, put on muscle, and kind of grow into that body. But he spent his age 17 season, his first year in pro ball in the Dominican Summer League with the Marlins, put up some pretty good stats. Played in 40 games, had 159 plate appearances. Now he hit 260, but he had a 373 on base, a 671 OPS on the season. Excuse me, I should say, 671 OPS on the season. And again, those good numbers. However, only concerning part, no power, no home runs, only 3 doubles in those 159 plate appearances. Basically, all of his hits were singles. He's got average to above average speed, plays a solid center field. They're not sure if he sticks there, but he'll stick in the outfield long term. But again, a projectable 17-year-old, and the Orioles have done well trading for these guys out of the Dominican Summer League and kind of molding them well. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see on a guy who's 17 years old in Kevin Guerrero. One of the other pieces, a player to be named later. Again, we could know who that player is tomorrow. We can know who that player is in 5 months. Essentially, the Marlins basically submit a list of 5 or so guys, and then that name comes up later in who the Orioles will get as well. And then a competitive balance round B pick, kind of a new thing. You can now trade draft picks. And the Marlins traded a draft pick here to the Orioles. So the competitive balance round B happens after the second round of the draft. Marlins have the first competitive balance round B pick. Jim Callis said that's going to be pick number 67 overall in the draft. So it'll actually be the Orioles' 4th pick of the draft, because they'll have their first round pick, their competitive balance pick, their second round pick, and then they'll have competitive balance B. So they'll have 4 picks in the top 67. Pretty solid way to live it out from the Orioles. But that's the return. Is it enough? I don't think so looking at it now. I hope I'm proven wrong in the future and Velez becomes a good big league pitcher and Guerrero, turns into this great outfield prospect, and, the pick, the Orioles get another good player in their system with that pick in this year's draft. But we will see. And obviously, most important thing, I wish Tanner Scott and Cole Sulser the best in Miami. I'm going to miss the dominant Tanner Scott. Not going to miss the wild Tanner Scott, but I'm going to miss the dominant Tanner Scott. When that fastball's working, that slider is crazy good. And I'll miss Cole Sulser. He was consistently really good for the Orioles last year. A cool guy to listen to him talk about baseball as well. Had that crazy good changeup. An Ivy League guy who made it to the big leagues at 29. It was a really cool story, and wish them both the best in Miami. But this trade, it's going to make the Orioles worse in 2022. I'll tell you that. Hopefully it makes them better beyond. But we will just have to wait and see on that one. But we'll see if that's the biggest trade the Orioles make this offseason. We still got 4 days of offseason left. Maybe they'll make another deal. We will see. Maybe they'll bring in some more players to help the Major League roster in a signing and another trade on waivers. If they do, we'll have it covered for you right here on the pod. But again, we'll be back tomorrow. And on tomorrow's episode, we're really getting you ready for opening day. It is our AL East Division Preview Roundtable, as I'll be joined by Ulysses Zambrano, the host of Locked On Rays, Stacey Gotsulias, the host of Locked On Yankees, and Lauren Campbell, the host of Locked On Red Sox. The 4 of us do an AL East roundtable, doing some predictions and just previewing the division as a whole for the upcoming 2022 MLB season. And that is coming up on tomorrow's episode of the pod. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.